Here we are outside Vicarage Road, and it's finished Watford 1, Chelsea 2. Somehow. Before I get into the match review, I've got to say, of course, my thoughts go out to the man in Vicarage Road, in the Graham Taylor stand, who very sadly did suffer a cardiac arrest. But just like that Newcastle-Tottenham match, the response was fantastic. You know, Marcus Alonso was straight to mention it and straight to show it, and the Watford players were straight to get there when they saw it. It was such a quick response, and the stewards were fantastic, and the physios got there very quickly, and they did very, very well. And the referee, the stadium announcer, straight away, they were walking the players off the pitch, giving a break to the proceedings, and it was amazing because, you know, a thing like that can take a while, but the clock was stopped on 12 minutes. It was a game that started off Watford really looking good from the first minute, really up for it. And I think this is the thing about playing a big team. Watford seem to always just want to prove the doubters wrong and actually take on big opponents and say, yeah, we can get in your face, we can cause you problems. We're not just going to roll over to these kind of teams. Really fast tempo start from the Hornets, pressing Chelsea and putting Mendy under you know, a bit of pressure at times, forcing mistakes from that back line, and just looking really up for it, winning I think a lot of corners early on. And you know, Watford by far the better team in that first 12 minutes before the stoppage. So then the players come out again. Brilliant to see. Obviously the guys stabilised as well. Fantastic work to get him into that position, and you know, to drop him off at the hospital just nearby. Really, really good to see. So yeah, thoughts go out to him, but fantastic work to get him back. You know, football does take very much a second step of a second you know, priority when, you know, these kind of things happen. It's great to see the response, and great to see that clubs are starting to become aware of it now, because it's a very real issue. You know, health problems, we saw it with Christian Eriksen in the Euros. It's so important that we are educated and that we know the first response and we act quickly, and that was great to see. You know, what a club, Watford, the original family club, and it's great to see that there's good heads at the club that can sort those kind of things out. So yeah, all credit to them. But yeah, the players come out, and obviously that's always going to be difficult for the players. It plays in their mind, they approach it differently, and it's always difficult to get back into the kind of momentum that you were showing before that. But I thought Watford did that really well. So first 5 minutes after the break, and the game resumes from the 12th minute, you know, Watford doing exactly the same, keeping up the tempo and winning free kicks, winning corners, really looking really up for it. And you know, Chelsea just looked a bit nervous. They looked a bit you know, erratic at times, you know, misplacing passes and making fouls and having to basically stop our flow, because it was a very stop-started game, not just because of the medical emergency, but also, you know, the amount of fouls that Chelsea were being awarded was unbelievable. The referee today, I don't know his name, but I will find it out at some point. Basically, he had a absolute mare of a performance. Just honestly, some of the decisions, he was giving them so many soft free kicks to Chelsea, and just felt like every time there'd be about 3 fouls in a row on Watford, and he'd just stand there like a melon doing nothing. Like, he's got to get involved, got to actually respond to some of them. And you felt like some of these, you know, decisions were going to punish us. The yellow card I'll get onto for William Troost-Ekong was the most ridiculous decision, and the crowd rightly were fuming because it was such a good tackle. And it's just, I think, the reaction from the player that gets injured. It's not an injury necessarily from the tackle. It's just, you know, it's a thing that tackles, they're going to happen, right? Players are going to feel the force of the momentum that carries you. But when you win the ball so cleanly, it's not even a free kick for Chelsea, but it's a yellow card just because the player's down, you know, rolling around. It's like, come on, the referee's got to just use a bit of common sense there. But I'm digressing a little bit. Going back to the start of the game, as I said, good first 5 minutes after the restart, but then it started to be that really out of nowhere, Chelsea started to get in the game. And look, they really didn't have a lot of chances, but they had a very, very short 5-minute spell or so in that second half. In the first half. And out of nowhere, really, Watford having chances, as I mentioned, looking threatening on the break. And, you know, there was some of the crosses for Watford were much, much better than previous weeks. Getting down the lines, getting shots away, and, you know, Mendy didn't have a lot to do, but when he did, you know, they were decent efforts. So out of nowhere, Watford have to suddenly defend, and a shot from nowhere basically for Chelsea. I'm not sure who it was on that left hand side. It might have been Mason Mount, might have been Azpilicueta, but anyway, a Chelsea player has a shot and it hits the post, and that's, you know, a chance that comes out of nowhere, suddenly wakes Chelsea up, and just for a brief spell in the game, they start to come alive. And you know, Chelsea, that result, we'll go on to say how it felt very unjust. Watford looking very much worthy of a 1-1 draw in that game, but they didn't look like a team that were pushing for the top title. They looked a very average team today. So Watford can feel aggrieved about the result for sure, but the matter of it was that Chelsea were very average today, and they just didn't have a lot of chances, didn't test Backman really that much, but on the day, their money, their class in the squad does just pay dividends. But it feels harsh because, you know, the passion, the pressing, some of the build-up that Watford showed was much, much more progressive and ultimately much more eye-catching. And Chelsea just, they had struggles in the game to keep that Watford pressure from boiling over. But, you know, that's what good teams do sometimes. They don't play well, but they get a win. And on another day, Watford really could have got more out of that game. So, yeah, after that chance to hit the post, suddenly, out of nowhere, Chelsea do get their goal to open the scoring, and it's Mason Mount. And really, you know, Watford looking good going forward and looking defensively very resolute. But one time, out of nowhere, they get a ball down the right-hand side, and it comes out, I think it's Marcus Alonso that puts it into the box on that left-hand side after it's switched with the play. And it's kind of just a few Chelsea players lining up. And really, you felt the way that Chelsea broke, it was inevitable that was going to go. And you could see that goal coming a mile off. But in terms of how it was created, it really wasn't one that we were expecting. So, yeah, ball across. I'm not sure who got the assist. It might have been Azpilicueta, I'm not quite sure. But it fell to Mason Mount anyway. And he tucks it away confidently. But as I mentioned, really against the run of play, Watford feeling aggrieved about that. And, they have to regroup, basically. And, the response was good, I thought. Watford were much, keeping that momentum, looking good going forward. And then they get their goal. And it is a fantastic, fantastic piece of work from Moussa Sissoko. The strength he shows in that midfield to muscle off his opponents, muscle off his midfield battle from Chelsea. You know, they've got some strong midfielders in there. Obviously missing Kante tonight, but they still got very good depth in there. And yeah, just does so well to win the ball first of all, but then turn. He's so good at driving with the ball and showing the strength, muscling off the opponents. And then he's just unselfish. He's just classic Moussa Sissoko, finds the pass with that class ball in behind that Chelsea defence. And, you know, Dennis has options here, right? He can choose where to put it, but he just is very clever. He just goes up one-on-one against Azpilicueta, has the shot, and just places it well. And it does take a nick off the underside of Antonio Rudiger, but it's definitely Dennis's goal. It was on target, and it's strong enough to go past Mendy and your equaliser. And that's a massive, massive moment in the game because, you know, Watford getting just rewards for their dominance of that first half. Really good goal, really good setup by Moussa Sissoko. And Dennis is absolutely on flames. What a signing he has been. Bargain for 3 million. I mean, amazing signing from Club Brugge. I was excited when he came. A lot of people doubted him with his, record at the likes of Club Brugge and Cole and his, attitude. hasn't been the best in the past, maybe you'd argue, but you know, we've nurtured him into a player that's got the right attitude now, and actually is making the most out of these games. And you know, the last couple of matches he's just been so good. He's got an amazing record of like 6 goals, you know, early on in the season, matching the likes of Cantona and, you know, some of the greats basically. And now he's gone and done it again, scored again. Doesn't matter who he's playing, he always looks a threat. And yeah, we go into half time thinking, yeah, all right, I'll take that at 1-1, but certainly, you know, try and carry that kind of momentum again. At half time, it was great to see Troy Deeney come out from his place in the stadium, in the seats, and basically just give a final farewell. Absolute legend of the club, and he was there today doing signatures in his new book for copies of that, which was brilliant to see. You know, it was a fantastic book, so definitely give it a read if you haven't. But ultimately, you know, it was classic Deeney joking around about, you know, the passion and the love that he has for this club, and it's clear to see. Obviously, his boyhood club Birmingham is where he's now at, but you know, Watford, he said it himself, Watford is his home, and you know, just such a great atmosphere and such a great relationship he has with the fans. So yeah, really good to see that. And yeah, just obviously the most delayed game you've ever seen, obviously, with what happened. So by half time, you know, 85 minutes really of when it should have been started at 7:30 had already gone. So it's like the first half, you had the whole game already done. But no, it was you know, it wasn't what needed to be done, and you know, they did it well considering the circumstances. They got it done quickly. So second half comes along, and you think, come on, let's really take it at them, because we've been good so far. Second half starts. I think Watford did look very good again. The first 5 minutes of each half, Watford looked good, but then Chelsea started to get really a foothold in the game, and that's where it starts to get kind of frustrating, because at times, you know, Watford had the better possession. In terms of the game as a whole, Chelsea having a bit more of the ball, you'd expect that with their quality. But ultimately, you know, good chances and some good moments for Watford for sure. So Chelsea, though, out of nowhere again, you know, it's crazy really when you think about it. The substitutions from Claudio Ranieri, some good ones. Obviously, Loaza on a yellow card, and cleverly also did pick up a booking, as did Danny Rose. But Danny Rose, we'll go on to say, was absolutely superb. But the yellow card, we'll talk about it now, for William Troost-Ekong was an absolute outrage. He wins the ball so cleanly, and I'm not sure who it is. It might be Alonso that goes down, pleading his innocence. Alonso, with an awful challenge, gets a yellow card rightly in the first half. But, you know, it's that kind of just petulant diving from Chelsea, over exaggeration of the foul that really shouldn't have been a foul. And, you know, you think now Troost-Ekong's walking a tightrope when really he shouldn't have been. So Lukaku comes on, you think, oh dear, this could be a really difficult one. But, you know, Troost-Ekong, Cathcart, they did really well up against him. They kept him out of the game. And, yeah, Watford had chances for sure. Watching back Match of the Day, you know, that might not do it justice because they don't show 90-minute, you know, replays. But, you know, watch back that game, because Watford had lots of opportunities. And lots of good moments in the game. But then, out of nowhere, again, Chelsea get their goal, and it's like, come on, do Watford really deserve this? But, you know, a chance for Chelsea comes through Chelsea, and it's put into the box. A good ball, to be fair, and Ziyech just thrashes it straight into the back of the net, into the roof of the net, and it's just like, is that really where Watford have warranted that goal? But, you know, there's so many positives to take going into Man City, for sure. You know, long periods of that game, Watford looking more attractive on the ball, looking more promising, and just Chelsea not on their finest day. But as I said, they're clinical. They don't need many chances to win. And yeah, it just had a 1-1 written all over it, I thought. You know, in terms of performances, Blackman I actually thought had quite a good game, made some decent saves, but, you know, as I mentioned, both goalkeepers not having a lot to do, and Watford in the ascendancy for most of it, but it's just Chelsea clinical. They take their chances. Left back, now Messina obviously started the game, which I was happy about, because, you know, the pace up against Mason Mount was needed. Danny Rose, we know, has not got as much as that. But a very unlucky injury early on for Adam Messina, and he kind of went off towards the beginning of when the play was stopped for the emergency. So Messina went straight off when the play resumed for Danny Rose, and I was thinking, like, for that long, Danny Rose might have a bit of a tough time, but how wrong was I? Danny Rose had so much life in him, a point to prove for sure after the last few performances from him against Arsenal and against Liverpool. He's been really, really struggling, but he was fantastic today, just so determined, and unlucky to get the yellow card, but some of the performances were absolutely brilliant. The recoveries, the desire to go forward as well, really, really energetic performance from Danny Rose, made some really good tackles to deny Mason Mount and to get some tackles in. So really impressed with Danny. Trista Kong as well. He had a point to prove, and a lot of Watford fans would have called Kabasele to start today, but you'd argue it's a good decision because you don't want to rush him in ahead of Chelsea, which is always a tough one when he's not had a lot of minutes recently, Christian Kabasele. But Trista Kong was much better today, looking more assured. As I said, very unlucky with the yellow card that shouldn't have been, but some good tackling, some good headering, and looked a bit more composed on the ball. So hopefully, if he worked on his communication with Bachmann after that Maddison goal last week, he maybe just got a bit more confidence, a bit more talking to himself and working out what he needed to improve on, and that really showed. Cathcart, again, composed. The defence generally had a good game, I thought, and the 2 goals, as I mentioned, just clinical finishes really, but not a lot of the defence or the goalie could have done, because the first one, as I mentioned, Chelsea were lining up with players close range, not a lot Bachmann can do, and the second one, again, he just thrashes it. It's a lot of the goal cut there from Ziyech comes down to the pass, and there's not a lot Bachmann can do. So yeah, I think we've got to say it's an improvement defensively from last week. We needed that improvement, but obviously the performance is just frustrating because we show the performance, but it's not enough to get something out of the game when really we should have got a 1-1 draw there. So, there were moments in the game we could have had chances. I think ultimately, right, we let Chelsea dominate us too much from aerial duels, because the amount of times we had, corners, free kicks swung into the box and Rudiger or, Thiago Silva would just head it away, and, we really had opportunities today. As I mentioned, Chelsea, defensive, not amazing, and performance-wise, not that inspiring. So I think they were there for the taking today, but we just didn't quite have enough. As Chelsea did take their chances, we didn't quite have enough today. But certainly a lot of positives to take. So yeah, unlucky today, but ultimately we lose the game 2-1. The absolute scenes if Bachmann had gone on and had a chance there from a set piece he went up for. But yeah, look, we got to say, man of the match today, Moussa Sissoko for sure. I think Dennis is up there as well. And moving on to the right back, obviously Kiko Femenia started the game. I thought he had quite a good game. Got himself about, and then Ngakia came on as well. And yeah, some interesting subs. As I said, Lukaku came on for Chelsea and Ziyech came on, obviously got the goal, but they weren't that inspiring, Chelsea. So, if we play like that against anyone else this season, we will certainly get many more wins, many more points. So yeah, very, very positive. Just the fact is, to say we're disappointed to lose to Chelsea these days, we're expected to lose quite comfortably, is certainly a lot of positives to take. So Ranieri can be happy with the performance. Just, we got to take chances when these opponents are not quite up to speed. Getting down in the comment section, your thoughts on the game. I thought, from watching the game all 90 minutes, Watford looked much better from that Leicester game, and much better defensively. But still, 2 goals conceded, disappointing stuff. And ultimately, we go to Man City. We want to show that similar level of performance, and whatever happens v City. We know it's always an uphill task, but we go again. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. You owns. And the referee had a stinker.